Hi. Part of my work is to create 3D digital people who are mostly photorealistic. Some of them are stylized also. Like the first character that we looked at was Polar, who was a photorealistic Scandinavian singer. And now we are building more Indian characters, and they're all photorealistic. And I love the tech side of it. The whole using an Unreal Engine, creating these photorealistic avatars, also other tools, because it's a hybrid pipeline. It's not just one thing. To get the hair right, to get the clothing right, to get the mannerisms right, etc., to infuse this 3D character with soul. And while we were looking at this over the period of last 2 years, when I first met my first virtual person, which was a person called Shudu, who's a fashion influencer. And what I loved about her is the backstory. Not the backstory of the fact that she's a fashion influencer XYZ, but the way the makers made her. And the way the makers made her was essentially a combination of philosophy, psychology, storytelling. And if you don't get that right, I think everything else is a culmination of that, right? So, having said that, what is really needed, I think, especially in the Indian landscape right now, where we are building these characters uh, to fulfill the gaps of representation of certain types of people, because not like they say that we all live three lives. Okay, one is the hero's journey, then there's the fool's journey, and then our own journey. So the archetypes in this are multiple, and they are beyond the 12, 13 that we are taught. So that's number one. Number two, when you're creating a male or a female character, you're also looking at what makes somebody male or female in terms of attractiveness. So simple insights like uh, a man is attractive when he has something feminine, a woman is attractive when she has something masculine. That's what you call the X factor. What happens to the behavior of a person when they're in a certain kind of situation. For example, if it's a romantic situation, a man when a man is in love, he becomes timid. When a woman is in love, she becomes bold. What happens to you when you're working? What happens to you when you're traveling? What happens to you when you're friends? So all of this gets imbibed into the behavior and how the mannerisms come about for these virtual creatures. And then the storytelling is of course restricted by the technology. The technology cannot do everything. It can do a lot of things, but not everything that a human can do. So it is restricted by the tech, but the storytelling is extremely critical, because without that, the life and the soul of the character never comes across. It then just becomes a plasticky thing that you don't think is real enough. You don't want to marry this, you don't want to date this, don't want to work with this, you don't want to be influenced by this, etc. Right? So it's not this, it's them. What are their pronouns? How do you address them? Are they wise or not? What are you putting into them in terms of information packs, which is where AI comes in to make sure that they're wiser than, or they have a certain wisdom which is very native to them, because there is a certain design. And this is not designed for perfection. This is designed for representation of a certain worldview and a certain physical type. Um, this is very, very hard work. Uh, Creating a character who you relate to and think is yours, because we give it back to you and you end up falling in love with it or not. The fact that you may miss this character when they don't talk to you, the fact that you look forward to the next escapade that they might do, the fact that uh, you're excited about their lives, because they do have lives, uh, even though that's digital. I think is a massive quest. And if we get this togetherness sorted, right, the tech play and the storytelling, psychology, philosophy, right, imagine what we would create. Uh, the evolution of the virtual influencer uh, is going to be earth shattering, because ideally as humans we will by default create, I think, a little more evolved creatures, and not necessarily the actually we can create anything, whatever catches our fancy. And but we have to give it the value that it deserves, and we have to give it the gravitas that it needs. Without that, it's just a scaffolding. It doesn't have the relatability, it doesn't have the depth that you may look for in a human. uh, and you do need the depth. What do you say? Would really like to hear from other virtual influencer creators and understand where they come from and what's happening in the space. There's lots happening in India, and we can definitely exchange notes. But the build has to be way more than what we think it is, especially if you're looking at digital doubles of people who are already famous, who are already celebrities, who are already creators. And in the creator economy, this build will be massively critical. It's not about giving you the likeness, it's not about being a ditto copy, it's to infuse you with your spirit in your digital double. And that is a job that can almost take the next 50 years if you get at it. It's not a simple job.